Hey everybody, welcome to the round 2 player ratings video. I'm so excited to be doing this. So excited to be filming this. It's always good to do these after a win, especially a good win. And I think this win in particular ranks right up there with the best that we've seen with, this particular group from 2015 or 16 onwards, and the emotions are still riding high. It's just a good time to be enjoying being a Carlton supporter. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel and that are new to the player ratings, welcome. It's good to have you here. I don't know where you've been, but all that really matters is that you're here right now. For those of you who have been here for a while, welcome back. You know how this runs. Essentially, this video is all about giving each individual player a rating or a vote out of 10. I usually like to say that 5 or above, well, 5 is the pass mark and above. The way I like to do it is really just to start the conversation. These ratings are not official. They're not even right. They're not even wrong. Some of them are going to be totally different to the way you see the game. But the idea is to really start the discussion about individual players' game and have the discussion. And then I've got a table which I'm going to tally for the rest of the year. And we'll use these votes or these player ratings to give our own Blue or Broad Player of the Year. Now, last week I made a few adjustments for you, and that's really what your comments below will do. If you feel like some of these ratings are too high or too low, let me know. We'll have a chat. Don't take them too seriously. It's just really more of a discussion point, and we'll get to it. Now, the player ratings video, as you know, they are brought to you by Doinabit. My man Mark Sanders and I have been working together this is our second season now. Doinabit have an activewear range. All the information about their company and their shop is in the description below. Yeah, very interesting hoodies. You know when you buy a hoodie and when you first buy it, it's really soft on the skin, and sometimes you wash it and then it gets a little bit weird on the skin. The beauty of these hoodies is that doesn't happen. Really high quality, and I'm really proud to be working with Mark and with Doinabit. And I guess the ethos of the company is just that, doing a bit. Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're training, if you're working on yourself, you're just doing a bit, doing something. And it's a message that I like to implement into the channel. I'm all about, being better and doing something for yourself and just being better than what you were yesterday and last week and last year and whatnot. So make sure you give them some support. Even a follow on Instagram would mean the world. And maybe even check out one of their posts on Instagram and just write the words Blue Abroad, just so Mark knows that you've been sent here. So anyway, let's get into it. There's going to be a lot of 10 thrown out. I actually thought every player played well. And most players, if it wasn't their game, they definitely took their moment. But it's a really unique game because I'm so happy with each individual player's performance. And again, what Cripps gets is not relative to what Lockie O'Brien gets. It's really the individual. It's as if you were sitting there with them, rating their game. And the idea is, I look at their standing in the team, their level of development, where they are in their careers, and what we sort of expect from them. And so let's start. We'll start with the way the team was named. Sard, Wiedering and Dougherty. Adam Sard, thought he was pretty good. Thought he was really solid. He's so exciting to watch. He had a really good game the way I saw it. He ran from defence pretty well, we're starting to get him the ball in better positions, and he's just an exciting player to watch. I gave him an 8 out of 10. Wiedering, we know we had the matchup on Norton, which was a pretty big matchup. Norton was pretty good last week against the Melbourne Footy Club, and he was in good form. And he's one of the big names when you talk about the big forwards in the competition, and he really does get them going. But Wiedering was able to keep him to a goal, played on him for the majority of the game, if not all of it. And one thing about Wiedering's game on Thursday night, which hasn't been spoken about, some of his kicking was elite. Threading the needle, almost a turnover, but just enough to thread the needle. There was one particularly I believe it was the first quarter, a bullet down to Jack Silvani. It just allowed us to transition to the other side and kick a goal in the end. And, he was sensational. So I gave him full votes. I gave him a 10. Sam Dougherty, I also gave him a 10. We can quickly forget the journey he's been on and his individual situation, but 25 disposals, again, 7 marks, cleaned up. Had a few moments, particularly in the first half, where second, third efforts, turned it over at one point, made sure to get it back and throwing his body around and tackling hard. And he's really assumed the role of, one of the veterans in the team, and he's playing like it. I loved his leadership, love his game, proud of him and proud of him and his family, as I said last week. So I gave him full marks. The half-back line, Mcgovern, Mcdonald and Williams. Mcgovern, I thought it was another good game from him. I thought it was a step in the right direction. He's looking a lot more comfortable now. We're going to talk about it probably in the week. Don't know where Oscar McDonald's at with that back injury, but we're going to need Mcgovern to step up a bit more. I noticed that in the second half, he changed his mentality a little bit to playing a little bit more one-on-one than intercept, and that was out of necessity, given that McDonald went down. But some of his marks, some of his positioning was good, and there was a moment, I think it was in the first half, probably the second quarter, he seemed to be getting a little emotional, just really frustrated. Like, you can tell he cares a lot, and I thought he was going to give away a 50-metre penalty, but the core takeaway for me was that he got on top of himself again, calmed down, and was able to play out the game. So Mitch was great. I gave him an 8 out of 10 for his game. Oscar McDonald, I thought his first half was really good. We're talking about, what is it? It was 9 disposals, 4 marks, and then he got injured, had back spasms. So I'm hoping it's not too serious, because we know that he's had a very bad back injury, which kept him out, all of last season. So, fingers crossed for him. But I just like what he's doing for the team. He's playing his role. I don't expect amazing things from him, but I do expect him to play a role, and I think he's doing that. It's hard because he's missed half a game, but I still gave him a 6. I thought from what I did see in the first half, it was really good. And to be honest, if he doubles that first half output and ends up with, 18 disposals, you don't expect that from him, but, he's looking at a 10. So I gave him a 6. I don't know. Can you really give a player a 7 for a half a footy? I'm not sure. Maybe you can let me know in the comments. Zack Williams, can I just say the big takeaway, in my opinion, of what I've seen from Zack Williams in 2022 so far is the work rate. What he's doing behind the ball is really, really impressive. Didn't have as much of the ball last week, had to play a bit of a team role on Dusty when he went forward, but Thursday night against the Dogs, his work rate was there, and his kicking was absolutely sensational. Some of the bullets that he was able to kick and targets he was able to hit was really impressive. I still think he's got a level to go, because I know he's a really good player. The other important stat was he had 10 marks, which is phenomenal. Now, I tossed up, do I give him a 10? Do I give him a 9? I'm going to give him a 9, but again, you let me know in the comments how you saw his game. The centre line, Setterfield, Cripps and O'Brien. Setterfield, I thought he was sensational, particularly in the first half, in the first quarter as well. He really got us going, and he was just an option behind the ball, around the ground. He worked really hard. He won a lot of the ball, used it relatively well, and he's building. You got to remember, like he's playing in a role which is not his preferred role, given that he's starting on the wing, but I noticed him start to find a good balance between when to approach the contest and when to get in there and when to just stay, a handball away from the contest. So I think he's coming along nicely. 23 disposals, marked the ball 5 times, provided an option, and I was pretty happy with his game. So I gave Setters an 8 out of 10. That might even be a little too low. I might need to bump that up to a 9. Cripper, gave him a 10. He was an enforcer. Dare I say it? He played a bit like Michael Voss. I think Vossi was a better kick, particularly on his left side, but Cripps he's our inspirational leader. That's the role that he plays in this team. When he's up and about, we're up and about. It's just the way it is. He's just got such a presence, and I'm just so pleased for him to be healthy. Touch wood. I wish for more good health and some more good luck. Last year was a bit of a battle with his back and shoulder and expectation and situation, but we're not looking behind. We're looking ahead. Gave him a 10. Well done to the skipper. 35 possessions, 2 goals, 23 contested possessions. His individual performance, I thought, was as good as it gets. Lockie O'Brien, I gave Lockie a 9. I loved what he did, and I noticed after the game, for whatever reason, people are still stuck in the past with Lockie O'Brien, I sense that people still have this angst with him. 25 possessions, 6 marks, kicked 2 behinds, probably should have had a goal. What more do you want from him? He's building, he's working hard. You can see the work he's put in. He's shown clear improvement from last year and the year before. And I just think he's back on this path forward, back on this upward trajectory. Bit of a tough couple of years for him, but I'm getting right behind him. You can obviously do whatever you like to do, however you support, is your choice, but I'm getting right behind the lad. I think if anything, he just needs more support from the fans. I know that he's got a good coaching group around him. I know that he's got a good environment around him that's going to allow him to improve. And I just loved his game. You know, there was that situation where he sort of flailed his head back. Okay, we'll work on that. That's something that, you know, he won't be doing in the future. I think he'll just become a little bit more stronger in the contest. But the way I see his first 2 games, they're just big ticks. And I thought, I'll be honest, I thought Thursday night was one of his best games for the club. He just provided an option. One of the core moments which I want to bring up was his first kick. Now, he shanked it, and it nearly went through for a doggy's behind. However, he kicked it on his right foot. And what that tells me is a mentality of trying to be better. Okay, it's not going to look good at times, but the fact that he's trying that tells me that he's working on the other part of his game or the other side of his body. So I think he's coming along nicely. I'm right behind him. His individual situation, I gave him a 9. I think if he kicks that goal, bumps him up to a 10, so a little bit of room for improvement, but I'm happy with where he was at on Thursday night. Half forward line, Zach Fisher, Charlie Curnow, and Corey Durden. Fisher's another one that I think people, I don't know what you want from him. I'm not sure exactly where this mentality has come from. People are looking for a negative. I thought he was sensational. Like 23 possessions, kicked an important goal, went back, set shot. Thought his kicking was good. He was pretty efficient, 82% disposal efficiency. And I mean, from a guy that's playing in half forward flank, starting there and moving up, I kind of hope for something like 18 to 20 possessions and hopefully a goal. He's given us 23, used it well, kicked a goal. One thing I'm also noticing with him, he's not getting pushed off the ball at contests anymore, number 1. And number 2, he's really hunting the football and getting right in there at the bottom of some of the packs. I noticed when Cripps was off, he really started asserting himself. And that's one of the first few times I've seen him do it the way he did it against the Dogs. So I thought that's as good of a game as you can really want from Fisher, given the role he's playing for the team. So I gave him a 10. I'm also biased towards him. I love him. I love what he brings. I love his energy. He's infectious to me, and the boys love him. You can tell, and you know that's how I saw it. Charlie fucking Curnow. If last week was the story of Sam Dougherty, this week is the story of Charlie Curnow. You know, so many weeks, months, years of supporters and maybe even himself. I wonder if he ever doubted, I'm sure he did, whether he'd be able to put on a performance like what he did last night. You know, to kick 5 goals and 16 possessions and just get around it. It was so heartwarming. Didn't have as much of an influence in round 1 as what he would have liked, obviously. Had a very good opponent in Robbie Tarrant, but I'm just so happy for him. And again, his family, and give some credit to Andrew Russell as well, who's put a program in place to get him where he is. Like, I know Charlie Curnow has to put the work in, but it's also a team effort. There's a lot that goes into getting him back to where he is. And I'm happy. I'm proud. I'm full of love. I'm full of love for Charlie. And he's another one, very similar to Fisher, that just the boys get around and provides energy. And I gave him a 10. And he, for me, was really doing a bit on Thursday night. So I'm just so happy to be talking about Charlie Curnow playing football, let alone being the leading goal kicker on the ground, but just playing football again, and together with Harry providing that 1-2 punch. Corey Durden, not as much influence offensively as last week. Didn't have as much of the ball, but when he did have the ball, he just has this footy IQ. He knows how much weight to put on a handball. He knows how much to put on a kick. He lowers his eyes. He had that hit-up kick. I think it might have been in the 4th quarter, maybe the 3rd. Him and always have this trait about them where they really do lower their eyes. Defensively, it's just, you know what you're getting from Corey Durden. You know how much effort he's going to put into chasing and putting bumps on and tackling and, you know, allowing our other forwards to get amongst the play. So I gave him a pass mark. Sorry, I gave him a 6 for his game. Obviously, that will increase the more offensive impact he has. But ultimately, it's a team game. He's not going to be getting 15 touches every week, but he will be providing that pressure, and that's clearly his role. Provide the pressure. If you get on the end of a bit of it, it's a bonus. So loved his defensive game. Gave him a 6. Next up is always Makai Silvani. Always had a bit more of an influence offensively this week than last week. It's almost like he and Durden switched. the pressure's there. Kicked a goal, 10 touches, provided the pressure. I gave him an 8 for his game, and I like what he brings. I really do like what he brings. It's infectious, and together with Durden, I don't know if that's going to be a thing that we keep for the rest of the season once we get some more players back like Honey and Jack Martin, but I'm loving it. I'm really loving the two of them there. So loved Owi's game. Harry Makai, wow. I gave him a 10. I know he was a little bit more subdued in the second half than the first, but in that first half, he did so much sort of above and beyond what you kind of expect from him. You almost expect what he did in the first half to be done in a whole game. 12 possessions. I think it was 10 marks, 4 goals. What do you want? What more do you want? So gave him a 10. Jack Silvani, I gave him an 8 for his game. Kicked the 2, read the ball well. So underrated and so underappreciated by the wider football community. It's crazy, but I love what he brings to our club. I love his effort, even just putting inferred pressure on opponents. We might not get the tackle, we might not get the stat, but he gets the pressure, and he brings it. I love him. I gave him an 8 for his game. Next up, we have the followers, which was Pitto, Walsh, and Hewitt. Pitto, I gave him a 9, 11 hitouts to advantage. If you look at the game, when I watched it the second time, I didn't realise how much of a dominance he had in those centre bounces. And, we were able to capitalise on that. Our first half was scintillating, particularly that second quarter. And when you have faith in your ruckman winning the tap, the way you set up changes completely. I thought he battled, he took strong marks when he needed to and provided pressure. And, given his role, I don't expect him to be a superstar. I expect him to be a job doer, and did he do his job? Absolutely, he did his job. So I gave him a 9. Walshy, unreal. I gave him a 9, not a 10. He had the 34 possessions. This might be really harsh to give him a 9 instead of a 10. Obviously, he will get better with his disposal efficiency. He had 9 clangers. I think that's probably why I'm just tempering it down to a 9. But ultimately, he's in his 4th year. He's still so young. 34 possessions on arrival back into the side after the syndesmosis injury. And the fact that he got up for the game was remarkable. And that's kind of why I want to give him a 10. But I don't know. I'm stuck between 9 and 10. It's semantics, but really happy to have him back in the side. And can you imagine when Chera's back in this side? Wow. It's so exciting. George Hewitt, straight up 10. 10. I said this at the start of the year. He is my favourite player, my favourite recruit, because he just does the tough stuff. He plays to his strengths, 27 handballs. He's tough, he's strong, he tackles, he does all the little things, and he's a worker, and he allows others around him to jump on his back in a sense and really do the same thing. And I just loved the way he plays this game, and I love what he's brought to the team in terms of, having your first 2 games for the Carlton Football Club. It's been a very welcome addition, and we've really needed a George Hewitt in this team, because I think he allows someone like a Matt Kennedy, who we'll touch on next, to grow as well. Speaking of Matt Kennedy, gave him a 10 as well. Gave him a 10. You get a 10. You get a 10. Everybody gets a fucking 10. His 4th quarter in particular was special. 14 disposals. He's tough. He's tenacious. He's almost becoming a little bit like George Hewitt. I think Hewitt's a bit more cleaner with his disposal. Kennedy can really just get the ball surging forward and get it on the boot at times, and his disposal efficiency dips because of it. But I'm just thinking about Kennedy and where he's come from, and I haven't forgotten where he's come from and the work he's put in, and that's probably why I give him a little bit more extra. 30 plus disposals, kicked a goal, 14 in the last, lifted, led, just happy with that. Fogarty, good to see him back in the side. I gave him a 7 for his game. I thought his first half was really good. You can tell he probably needs some time in the ones to get used to it and get the hang of it, but he's a good player to be bringing in to replace a Jack Martin, I'll tell you that much. Gave him a 7. He played his role, did his job. Pretty simple. Tom De Koning, I gave him a 7 as well. It's coming. I sense it. I sense he's coming. The body's filled out. Some of the marks he took were really good. Some of them he dropped. You can just tell he's on the precipice of getting that game. I thought it was going to be against the Dogs, but it wasn't. But I can sense it is coming. It's coming in the next couple of weeks. I can smell it. I love the way he competes. Once he starts marking the ball around the ground and we get a surety that he's going to be marking the ball around the ground, it's going to open up things for this group so much. He's going to become a real problem in this league. So I gave him a 7. Nick Newman, I thought his game was a lot better this week than last week. I thought he was in the game for the 4 quarters. Thought last week he started a little slow, played a bit more of a defensively minded game. Still did that on Thursday night, but 24 disposals, 10 marks, just got in the right positions. I was fortunate enough to be sitting on level 2, so you really do see what happens behind the ball a lot better when you're on that upper level. And I thought he and Zack Williams in particular, the way they positioned themselves was really good. So I gave Nui a 9 for his game. And then Lockie Plowman obviously came on as the sub. I gave him a 5 for his game, a simple pass mark, did his job, defended, nothing out of this world. And I think the fact that we've moved to a situation where Lockie Plowman now comes in as the sub as opposed to a starting player just kind of tells you a bit about the evolution of this group and where we're at. Nothing personal against Lockie Plowman, but he's a job doer, and I think we need to get more into the mentality of he's just there to do his job. He's not there to be a star, and there are probably a few others on the list that can do a bit more than him and defend, but he's an important player to have on your list to bring in when you need, like we did on Thursday night when Oscar McDonald went down. So gave him a pass mark. Those are my player ratings. Please let me know in the comments if I've gotten too excited. And if you feel like I've gotten too excited, well, you're damn right I've got too excited, because that was an exciting game to watch. A very exciting game to watch. And it's been a very exciting start to the season. I'm under no illusions that we are going to lose at some point, but I'm going to enjoy this while we have it, because what's life if you're not enjoying every moment for what it is? So I'll chat to you in the comments. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the celebrations. We've got a job to do. We'll get to Monday. We're going to move on. We've got the Hawks, and we'll chat about it there. Go the Mighty Blues.